Hello and welcome to Talk Tuesday. I'm Mia Saenz and this is Lori Montry, and we're the co-founders of the Greatest You Academy. So I want to say something different. How is everybody? I'm all sparky.
Look out.
Yay, the
Look
thumbs
out,
are going
everybody.
up. That's awesome. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going back to my let me change the view here so that it's different uh for the replay. There we go. Okay. Now we're on live and we're going forward. Did you want to say anything, Lori? Either open or say anything before we start talking?
Well, I'm excited for today because as we were ending last week's class, which was on the nervous system and how it really plays into every aspect of life, from your relationships to your ability to create meaningful work, or the way your vocation, the way you spend your time, your physical health, right? Your spirituality, all aspects of your life are affected by your nervous system. And we were talking about somatic experiencing as a specific tool that can help us, build that sense of safety, that sense of well-regulated nervous system that will allow us to go after and create the things that we want. So that was a really important Talk Tuesday. And so I invite any of you who didn't get a chance to watch it, to go back and watch from last week. But as we were kind of wrapping up, we had a question from one of the beautiful people in the group, and they said, can you help me understand how this stuff, nervous system and somatic experiencing and stuff, how could I apply that to my attachment, my anxious attachment style that's creating a lot of difficulty in my life, challenges building and maintaining beautiful relationships where we feel secure, where we are not always looking, what's the person doing? Where's the evidence that they're leaving or that this isn't going to work out, right? Creating scenarios that they're not going to work out, that things can't be, well attuned and really that gorgeous relationship that is such a part of what all of us are wired for and what we want in our lives. And so me and I really wanted to address that question. And it's not a 2-minute answer. It's not a 45-minute answer even. It's actually a many week and many dedicated work and applying the tools to your particular circumstances and stuff. So by no means do we want you to think that our few minutes that we're going to spend here talking about attachment and how you can work to build healthier relationships. But we definitely do want to start to help you see what's possible in this realm, especially when you understand what's happening and then have some tools to at least try on. But me and I have a couple of things in the Greatest You Academy which support this kind of work. One of them is the work with the nervous system in the academy, as well as the work to understand your limiting beliefs and really learn how to handle those big intense emotions that come up around, especially inside our relationships, right? So we have all of that work in the academy that really supports people looking to work on their relationship challenges. We also have, for people who sign up and become part of the academy, a beautiful little course as a free gift called Ready for a Divine Love Connection. And in that course, we walk people through and help them understand what have been some of your relationship patterns and how you can work with them powerfully to be able to create something new, that divine love connection that so many of us that we're wired for, that so many of us are looking to create. So know that even though we're going to give you some really valuable content today and some things to take forward, it really is, I wouldn't even call it the tip of the iceberg, because this work is it's built on decades. It's built on your entire existence. It's built on the relationships you had as an infant. And so for us to unravel that and to really give you exactly what you need in this little bit of time, of course, that's not possible, but we do want to use this time to show you what's possible and give you enough to take it into your life and start to try it on and see what we're talking about.
Awesome. And I also wanted to say in the Get Ready for a Divine Love Connection or Ready for a Divine Love Connection, what's really wonderful in there too also is I take you through all the dating stuff, the websites, the how to set your stuff up, the red flags, all of that stuff. It was at first what people wanted, and we added the other, but what we found is people really love the front part, the part about the getting ready for the divine love connection. So just know that through all the work that Lori and I bring you, we rotate stuff around. We're trying to now figure out how to expand it all out. So since we have different pillars active at the same time, how you can have, there's people who want the relationships, people who want the food stuff, people who want the emotional growth to heal their life. All of it, actually, we're going to tell you a secret. All of it works on all of it.
Yes.
Meaning that the Academy will work on all of it. And
Yes.
the beautiful thing is that you get to grow any way you want. So the uniqueness about it
Mhm.
is that it's all in there, whether it's the relationship, whether it's the food, whether it's healing the trauma from your past. It's basically the same stuff. If you've heard the saying before and you've wanted to punch someone out, because I know it's how it feels, is what you do one way, you're gonna do every way. So
But
you
I think, Mia, it's good news. It's really good news. And I wouldn't punch somebody, because what we're really telling you is it's all the same root and it's all the same, even though when you apply your different areas to it, it looks a little bit different.
Yeah.
But once you have the framework for working with yourself in one area, because it's the right thing, because it's successful, you'll be able to take that and be able to apply it to all the different areas. So that's actually really good news.
And I'm very sparky today, so let's enjoy that.
All
Full
right.
of
Well,
life.
let's
We'll
get into it. And
dig
as we
into it.
are, yeah, as we
Okay.
are, I would love, Mia, if people wanted to bring kind of, some of their personal experiences. This is what I experience.
Well,
And we can apply
mhm.
it to that a little bit.
Let's absolutely do that.
So
But let's just
the chat is
briefly go
open.
through. Yeah, but let's just briefly go through what we had in our email, which is
Mhm.
the topic today is overcoming attachment anxiety to build healthy relationships, right? And so we're going to briefly talk on, because as Lori said, we can't work through even one of these in the 30 minutes or so that we have here. So we're going to briefly talk on understanding attachment styles, or at least make you aware of them. Understanding attachment styles and their influence on relationships, identifying and managing triggers that contribute to attachment anxiety, developing healthy communication patterns and building trust, cultivating self-compassion and self-esteem to enhance your relationships. That's also your personal one too.
Mm.
Exploring techniques for overcoming fear of vulnerability and intimacy, nurturing healthy boundaries and fostering interdependency. That's so beautiful. So I'm going to jump in, and then Lori and I are going to alternate, and then we open it up for this beautiful discussion. So understanding the attachment styles is really the influence of our childhood and how our behaviors and our emotional situations and how we bring it into our adulthood. And so it's pretty simple, right? What we want to understand is how it actually works. So are we dealing with a secure, an anxious, an avoidant, and all of that may seem like, what are you talking about? We'll get into a little bit of it, but it's to have you open up to yourself. So understanding the impact of relationships, dynamics, and communication, and the intimate and the emotional intimacy is what the first one is about. So some of the tools are definitely about reading, self-reflection, but we'll get more into the tools as we open it up to everybody. We're just going to go through what each one is. So Lori, you're next.
Yeah. So with respect to, I do think it's useful to kind of think about those attachment styles and just to provide a sentence about each one. So you'd mentioned secure. Secure is that beautiful attachment style where we feel, essentially, it's very aptly named, we feel secure in our relationships. We feel like we can count on people, but not overly so, right? We're not codependent on them. We have a strong sense of self and a sense of safety. And so we tend to build somewhat easily trusting and secure relationships with people. That's kind of the ideal. Usually when we see that, people have had parents who were emotionally available, physically available, supportive, and generous with their time and love. And the anxious, or sometimes called ambivalent style, is often, it's that anxious, I'm afraid that the person is going to leave me. I need this person. They are responsible for my sense of well-being, my sense of safety in the world. And there's often a lot of either suspicion or just, nervousness about where are they? They didn't call me back. Oh my gosh, what does that mean? There's a lot of anxiety that is involved in this type of attachment style. Very often the young years of someone like that is going to look like, parents who were a little bit, on and off, didn't quite know if someone was going to be there or not, maybe sometimes, and then other times, or maybe when you weren't performing in the right way, right? There was, it felt like the love was being taken away, that kind of thing. We have avoidant style, which is that's kind of like it doesn't feel safe to love. So we hold intimacy off at arm's length, right? It's like, no, I know what happens if I open myself up to being vulnerable with someone, to loving somebody. They're not going to be there. So I need to really, just hold off on that and just, I'm good, right? I'm good on my own, even though I may say I want that connection, because like I said, we are wired for that beautiful connection, but I always find a way to keep it away from me nonetheless, because it truly doesn't feel safe. And a lot of times there you have neglect in the childhood. It just wasn't safe. The little child, and this could be an infant wanting it so much, but since it wasn't there, the only way to survive that situation is to deny the need, to put it off and say, find a way to not need that anymore. So that those people, tend to either, not try to pursue relationships, or they pursue relationship after relationship. But then when it reaches a certain level of vulnerability and intimacy, they'll find a way to shut it down. They may not, and probably aren't even aware that they're doing this. This is coming from more of a subconscious place. Now, this isn't to put any of you in a box. I'm anxious style for sure. I'm secure style. I'm ambivalent. We can be different with different people. We can be different inside different situations with the same people. We could be a combination. So these styles are not meant, I don't think, to really put us in, like these particular boxes, but they are very useful for helping understand how our early experiences are now being played out, as Mia said, in our current adult relationships. And they're also very useful because they allow you to see them not as truth, but as patterns that you get to see and potentially overcome. So those are the styles, kind of, again, Mia, as we've been talking about, all of this is really high level stuff. We go into a lot more detail in helping people really uncover their own situations and what contributed to that. So those are some of the styles and how it impacts relationships.
I'd like to pop in for a second.
Yeah.
So what I want to share, guys, is it's very interesting because as we grow, we shift, right? So guess what the anxious who's wondering where everybody is and who's left and abandoned and all that, guess what they generally bring in? The avoidant. And so in the earlier stages, right, until you grow through it and you grow to be secure yourself, so you're calling in a secure. It's a mind-blowing to me
Yeah.
experience to move through that. I've had more avoidant boyfriends than, my husbands weren't, but my boyfriends were. It was really odd. So be aware that the growth that you do will shift that. It's not that you're stuck in it. It's not
Mhm.
you're going to be there forever. You now are aware, and guess what? You get to reach for what you want, the secure.
Yeah, exactly. As you become more of that. And that's the other beautiful thing, is that we can shift our attachment styles. Don't feel doomed if you have an avoidant or an anxious attachment style. We can move, more into center, more into that secure place. And that's a very beautiful thing. There may still be, moments you may still be triggered more easily than, someone else or whatever, but these are all things, once you have some tools and the understanding, that you can work with. So, when we think about identifying, managing those triggers that contribute to attachment anxiety, I always like to talk about this. So let's just use an example here, because I think it's always much easier when we have real life experiences that we can talk through. So a couple that actually were working with the woman, and so much was coming up around the relationship. And one day she said, "Would you work with my husband as well?" And so bringing them in together, they were, she was, I would say, a mix of attachment styles. He was very anxiously attached. And so the world through his eyes was, as soon as somebody, these were his stories that were created by his anxious attachment style, as soon as someone really knows who I am, they're going to leave me. Okay. And his experiences seemed to confirm that, because he would, it was, time and again, as soon as he reached this level of intimacy with someone, the relationship would end. And so he would interpret that as, yep, see, there's the evidence. As soon as somebody gets to know me, they're not going to like me. Now, in reality, I'll just mention what was actually happening was that at that point where they became more intimate, his attachment got really activated, and he was very triggered and acting very triggered all of the time. And that's what was the reason for his relationships not working out, not because people were getting to know him and not liking him, but it's amazing. The brain will find evidence to confirm what it believes. So he believed, once someone gets to know me, they will leave me. He also believed that women don't really love men. They don't really love men. This was modeled for him. His mom stayed with his dad, but didn't love him, did it out of obligation. And so that was the beliefs that he was operating under. So with his wife, he was just waiting, any day she was leaving in his mind. And this is kind of on a subconscious level. He's not actually speaking these words, but to his subconscious, that's the anxious attachment style. This person is going to leave me. I'm not safe. This relationship is not safe. And so this was playing out in many areas of their life. Just so I'm going to give you an example so that we can talk about what to do in a triggered situation. So comes home one day and starts a conversation with his wife, who's really excited because she has a new work opportunity. And she's talking about, creating this thing, and how her boss called her, and this is so exciting for her. And meanwhile, so even though he wants to be supportive of her career and of this project, he is going through his mind, oh, this work is more important than me. She's actually much more interested in her work, and she's going to get all tied up in that, and she's going to be spending all of her time on that. There's going to be no time for us. The relationship's going to end. And that is a very typical type of trigger. And it may sound extreme, but if we could really get some clarity when you're in those moments and feeling threatened by the end of your relationship, or abandonment, or the lack of love, or anything else, we could slow that down in slow motion, right? Because in those moments, your nervous system is super activated. Everything is going on and you don't have the clarity to really see what's going on. All you know is you feel like crap and you feel threatened and you feel in danger and your relationship is in danger. And so, and really step back and start to pick this apart and understand what it's all about. You're like, wow, that seems extreme, but it's not. This is exactly what's happening in many, many types of triggered situations. The mind, right? His story is just driving this and it feels so true, right? So that's an example of a triggered situation from attachment anxiety. So in that moment, I tell people with all the work when it comes to things that feel threatening and when our nervous systems are highly activated, there's in the moment work and there's outside the moment work. And I think so often we get taught just the outside the moment work, and then we try to bring that in and do it when we're in the moment, and we don't have the capacity. We don't have connection with the higher part of us who's capable of doing that work in the moment. So for this person, for the man to start to understand, educated him on where his beliefs came from, why he feels that way, why this was a triggering conversation, right? Because normally what would happen, they would just fight. She was like, what do you mean? And not knowing, like, hey, if he could have said, hey, I feel like that 5-year-old kid in my kitchen who just found out that my mom was starting a job. She'd been home all this time and starting a job. And after she started the job, a lot of things changed and I didn't feel like she was available to me anymore. And then my parents' relationship and blah, blah, blah. So he wasn't able to really identify, hey, that's what's going on. He's just standing there, oh, okay, you're going to go all, and so he's taking an attitude and she puts her attitude on and then the two of them would clash, time and time and time again over this anxious attachment style. So inside that moment, the last thing we are going to do with him is try to bring up all of those things and help him understand, because he's being chased by a tiger in that minute, right? It feels like I'm being chased by a tiger. So the last thing I'm going to do, and the last thing that he would want to do, is be like, oh, let me sit down and think about this. Okay, how does this relate? Oh yeah, I see. Okay, I need to do some journaling and some self. Of course not, right? If we did that when you're actually being chased by a tiger, we'd be eaten. So that's not the kind of work that we can get into. We're operating in that moment from survival brain, just like we've been talking about over the last couple of minutes. So survival brain is not going to see the connection. Survival brain is not going to, in a vulnerable, beautiful kind of way, approach this problem and really look at how to bridge this gap. And so inside the moment, the best thing we can do is recognize, oh, I'm triggered. How can I help my nervous system? Not this situation, but how can I help my nervous system come back to a place of regulation so that I can see the other piece and work with that? So in the moment, there should be no thought about what's going on as far as, how's my attachment style and how am I going to overcome this? It needs to be 100% focused on how do I come back to my sense of regulation and sense of feeling anchored and safe. And we'll talk more about that in some of our other points. And then outside the moment, this is where we can really start to look and go a little bit deeper in times when we feel anchored and supported and secure. So that's the big thing I wanted to say there with respect to identifying and managing triggers. We need
Do you
to
guys
really
see
understand
how, yeah, do you guys see how vast each one is? And that's just the overview, right? So that's why it's so important to move into the work, into something where it can support you, or where you have people like the Academy to move through this. I just had to point that out because probably we have 6 things on our thing and we're probably not going to get to all of them, which is okay, because this is number 1 in the anxiety stuff. So this is so vital. Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to bring us around to that.
Yeah.
All righty.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me go. That's my area. Then I feel so important to talk about,
It's
what's happening to us in those triggered moments.
Mhm.
So that's why I wanted to spend a few extra minutes on that in particular, because that can shift everything. Just understanding now's not the time I need to, come back and get reconnected. Uh and with
And I'm sorry I put too much stuff on there to bring you today. I should have only put 3 things.
Oh
So
gosh, we could go on. It's not the point, like you've said, is not to solve everything, but just to give you some insights and also to let you know what is available through the Academy so that you know that if you're ready, this is something that can be overcome.
Lori, we have an important thing here, and I think that somebody's a little nervous. Cynthia, will we ever get it together to find and receive love? Yes, honey.
Thousand
Absolutely.
percent.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. That's why
Yeah,
we do this work. If it was something that was not attainable, we wouldn't waste
yeah,
our
yeah,
time, literally, especially Lori and I, because
yeah,
we love our life so much. It's so valuable to us that because we've gotten to that place where we work through, it doesn't say that we are completely done in life. We
yeah,
always are working. And that's the cool thing is that we love to clear stuff away. But yes, honey, if you do the work and if you dive in deep, you will find love. You've got to understand your attachment styles and get rid of the fear.
yeah. And Cynthia, I just want to tell you to further give you hope, this little story that I'm sharing with you. This couple goes on to be one of the strongest couples I've ever seen. And it took actually just a little bit because she was in the academy doing the work and had that strong foundation. They were able, once they had the tools and the understanding, they're doing beautifully and amazing. And that same thing applies to you to, when you're looking to create love, not just, fixing a current relationship. Yeah.
She
And
says,
that's again,
thanks.
yeah, what the Ready for Love course that is
Yeah.
really geared towards. Yeah.
She says, I have thanks. I have hope. So I'm like, yay, Lori has to hear that.
You should. You
Yeah,
should. Oh, yeah.
beautiful. All right. So Lori has number 2, identifying and managing triggers.
Done. That was
Okay,
the triggers. Yeah.
excellent. Okay. So the the next would be developing healthy communication patterns and building trust and effective communication. It really is vital to relationships. What we have found is the growth that we have done ourselves, we've brought into the academy. This is why we came together, because we said we want to build strong humans. We want them to master the way they communicate. So it's not just in relationships, it's in business, your family, everything. So it's not like you gain it for one area and not for the rest. So that's the beautiful thing about working on and healing the interior space, gaining your emotional intelligence, your self love, your awareness that you're important, your ability to communicate effectively. All of these are so important to grow and create the most magnificent human. And that's why we call it the Greatest You Academy, a mastery of life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, number 4 is such an important point. It really speaks to cultivating self-compassion and self-esteem to help your relationships. So your relationship with another starts with your relationship with yourself. And this is something else as we really highlight in the Ready for Love course, because, so many of us are out there because it's the way we've been taught, and we're looking for the person who will help us feel loved and validated and worthy. And we put that responsibility on somebody else, when really that responsibility belongs to us. We are the best person for that job. We're the only person who can truly know us and truly provide that sense of self-worth and validation in the world. So having that strong anchor, being your own strong anchor, right? That's what allows us to stand in those places of vulnerability, in those places of being triggered and having things to work through. If we're anchored and grounded in the strong love and support that we have established for ourselves, then we can do that in a relationship. But if it's all on outside of us, right? First of all, we don't know who we are in that case. We don't know how to meet our own needs. And it's just, that's not what relationship is for. And I know that this may sound weird. Wait a minute. What about Jerry Maguire? You complete me. And, the silly romance that that's not real. That's not real love, right? Real love is we are coming together. I'm coming together with you, not so you complete me, but as two complete beings who now, instead of trying to, oh, I'm doing this, so you give me love. You're supposed to act like this, and I'm supposed to. No, we're two individuals who are grounded in our own sense of self, our own sense of self-worth. And now we get to share beautiful love and experiences. That's what a real relationship is that we're after. So again, cultivating that self-compassion, self-esteem, it is something that is a foundational piece of the work we do, because that grounded, anchored sense of self and worth is such an important aspect for everything, certainly for a healthy relationship. So that is something that Mia speaks to. We had just finished up the summer of self-love, which was all about this very topic and how important it is.
Yeah, beautiful. So the next one is exploring techniques and overcoming fear and vulnerability and intimacy. So I'm going to jump right into this. What does that sound like? Self-love. So there's so many beautiful tools and ways to work through this. This is like my favorite thing: fear, intimacy, vulnerability, because it's the things that will stop us from loving ourselves and loving others. I remember when I discovered that vulnerability was so exciting. Why? Not because I was exposing myself to people, but I had gained the platform within myself that I could be honest and truthful and open to the feelings that I had and not afraid. And so as we move through all this, this is where a lot of the tools come together. You have to, again, we go back to the somatic experiencing. You have to be able to calm yourself. And even to go into, people say, well, I just go into meditation. Yes, that is a form of it. But also doing the exercises to calm yourself. Can you imagine then starting out on a meditation, a process, one of the tools, in a open space, not fearful of fear or how you're going to react to fear, vulnerability, or intimacy? It's really a beautiful way to bring it forward. So it's not a mistake that you're going to find a lot of crisscrossing here of all of this stuff working together. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Because you have to have that sense of safety, right? It underlies everything that we want to do. So we're not going to be vulnerable if we're lacking that felt sense of safety. And so, and that
You know what's cool?
Yeah.
If we think about that and we think about the three words that we heard up in the first one about the attachment styles: secure, anxious, or avoidant, can you see how fear would make you such? Until you work it out, you become secure, right? We all have something that throws us to the wind until we are, as Lori said, the most amazing one, which is unusual in today's world, is where you have parents that are just working it all perfect for you. That's a secure attachment. But those of us who have had, which is most of the world, have had stuff in our life from early childhood. We really need to honor ourselves and not judge, right? There's no judgment here, or no shaming or blaming self. It's all about how you can move through it so you can experience magnificence. Sometimes I talk very wow, because that's how I feel. I was one that was down in the darkness, and I've come up to the light. So, and what I mean is I had a very abusive childhood, and I've learned how to work through it and become a substantial human being, I would say.
I would definitely say yes.
Thank you.
So as we move into number 6, which is, okay, how do I now nourish healthy boundaries and foster interdependence? So, and that's such a, gosh, such a beautiful thing. And we could go on for forever. We both did a show this summer on healthy boundaries and how to set those, and there was so much good stuff in there. But it's really about once you do have, when you do have that sense of self, that that you are, another person's not responsible for whether or not you're lovable. Another person is not responsible for whether or not you're worthy, and all of that. Then you can start to figure out what do I need? What are the healthy boundaries that would serve me? And then how do I go about putting them into place? But there has to be a sense of safety and a sense of, yes, I deserve this. Because if not, then first of all, it's very difficult to understand what should my boundaries be. And it's also very difficult to figure out how to skillfully bring them to another. And actually, I think my interview with Marty in that boundary summit was all about how to bring it skillfully, because it's, when you can know the other person, right, and understand where they're coming from, you can bring things to them in a way in a clear way, in a way that allows them to absorb it without taking offense or without feeling threatened or whatever, because that sense of safety, not only for yourself, but also for the relationship, right? How do I bring this in a way that maintains our sense of safety for the relationship? And so being able to understand that, to know exactly how to set boundaries in a way that skillfully respects the other person is, it goes a really long way to helping not only your feeling of security in the relationship, but theirs as well. So that's an important aspect of the overall picture as well.
I would like to say quickly about boundaries. When you are in a space where you're feeling that you're triggered, things are coming up, you're not sure what's going on, and you know that you want smoothness. So you're like, okay, I'm going to bring in boundaries. This is where, even as a description, all over the world, you'll see it's even in our Lori and I do notes with each other just because we teach so many different classes, so that they go, even in there it says that you seek a therapist or a relationship coach, one who works on boundaries, because you can't just, the fastest way to disrupt peace is to put up a wall, which is a boundary, right? Sometimes you have to. It's like, you can't do this. But communication with the other person is the key to setting up boundaries. You talk about it, you see what feels right. And within yourself, you already are then developing your own proper boundaries, rather than running around like a chicken with your head cut off, yelling boundaries, 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 which is a big topic for today. And learning how to utilize your boundaries is a beautiful way to have a smooth life. Just
Yeah.
wanted to toss that in.
Yeah. And to come back to our relationship with ourselves, as we said, is the foundation for your relationship with others. People are going to treat you as they see you treating yourself.
Yeah.
And so the place to start with boundaries is figuring out what are the boundaries that you have for you, and how do you put those into place. Those could be ranging from, what are the boundaries around how I care for myself, what I allow myself to do. Do I have a boundary where I say, I'm going to put my work away at a certain time so that I can rest and rejuvenate myself? And, do I keep those? So there's just so much that goes into skillfully creating boundaries, and also doing it from a place of, not being triggered. Sometimes people throw out boundaries in a moment of being triggered, which is why I say, don't do this kind of work in the moment, right? Yeah. They might say, that's it, never ever, and then might not mean that. It might not be realistic. And then we just set up a scenario where it's like, well, she's not being clear. She's not really holding those boundaries. She's just throwing things out there. So to really, think about and to dive into each of these 6 areas when it comes to, understanding your attachment style and then working through them to really create a beautifully connected, soul-led, relationship between 2 complete people who, again, are coming together to share love instead of get something. Right. That's what we're really, that's the goal, right, that we're really working towards. And so these are, again, we tried to highlight some things to show you what's possible and to give you hopefully some things to think about. But there is lots of support for you
Lots.
on these areas and others. So if you're ready, if you're, if this is an area of life like it was for both Mia and I, and for so many people, and you're ready to take the step to heal those wounds, to understand them, and then to know how to really work with them powerfully, then let's talk about how to start working with you and getting you that support and love so that you can have hope, like Cynthia, and get together, find and receive love. That's what life is about.
Yeah. And also, when you see us giggle at something that may not be funny to you, remember, we've been through this. And so when I was giggling a moment ago about boundaries, I was thinking about something that I used to do that just cracks me up. So it's not to be, disrespectful about the topic. It's we've worked through these. So I just wanted to set the framework for anyone who is not a regular on our show, or our talk, our class, our academy.
Yeah,
I
it
just
made me
felt
too.
I
As soon
wanted to
as you
share
said
that with you.
boundaries, I immediately had these 4 or 5 things that came to mind. So yeah, I get it. Yeah. So I
Wonderful.
really hope that is helpful. And as you take away this material, maybe start thinking about it and how it applies to your particular experiences, and you might have some questions. So definitely, the Facebook page is a great place to ask those questions and get some extra support. As well as future talks, if there's something that you want us to elaborate on. We've got some really amazing talks coming up over in October. We're kind of dedicating to overcoming unwanted behaviors, especially emotional eating, because we're getting ready to open up enrollment for a 4-month class that starts October 30th. For any of you who may be wanting to improve your relationship with food and your body. So October is going to be pretty dedicated to that, but we always want to hear from you guys and know what we can further support you on. What is the work that you're needing?
And also, Lori and I have been talking that we might open up another day where I teach the self-love and the love work. So, and then Lori will come in and out as she wants to. Since that's, the thing that I'm like, that's my thing. Lori's thing is the food, the emotional eating and understanding it. So we love it all so much. We just want to be able to support you in as many ways as we can. But it does, just so you understand, ask us, because we structure out our stuff literally to go around the calendar. So we already have our calendar for the next year. And it's beautiful. You guys are going to love it.
And
So
would be happy to change and modify and be flexible so that,
exactly. That's the cool thing, is we're here to support you guys in any way that you need it, because there's 2 of us. There's also, we can open up and stretch rather than one person. So that's the beauty of the academy, is you have 2 women, or people, we'll just call us people, 2 people that really can cover a lot of topics. So thank you so much for joining us. Remember to
Nice.
write your questions and stuff also in the Facebook group, The Greatest You Revolution. It's an incredibly beautiful space to be active with. And in the month of October and November, I'm going to set a time where you guys can meet me on Zoom, and we'll go through the classroom, and I will be coaching you like open office hours. So we're just
Good stuff
expanding that.
happening in there.
Yeah. So, okay. Thank you so much. And
Great
I'm
to
going to
be
turn
with
off
you
the
guys.
recorder.